State of the Union with John King, CNN Sunday, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern.
Let's move on to an easier issue, right? Healthcare. Let's come home on this issue. I want to ask the question first in the context of what we learned at the end of the week. The administration's mid-session budget review is late this year, but they now say the deficit over the 10-year period to come will be $9 trillion. $9 trillion with a T. That's up from a $7 trillion estimate a few months back when they released their budget in February. Senator Lieberman, to you first. In that context, with a bigger deficit, is it time for the president to hit the reset button, forget sweeping health care reform this year, do 3 or 4 incremental things that are less costly, prove that you're bringing the cost curve down, and then go after the more difficult and more expensive issues?
In a word, yes. I don't think I give the president tremendous credit for taking on the healthcare problem, and it really is a problem that we've got to deal with. But he took it on at a very difficult time that was not of his making. In other words, we're in a recession. People are very worried about their jobs, about the economic future. They've watched us add to the debt of this country. We're projected to run a $1.8 trillion deficit this year, September 30th. More than $1 trillion next year. You mentioned the 10-year numbers. People are nervous. I think the protests coming out at the public meetings around the country this month are as much to do with that larger environment as they are with questions about healthcare reform. So I think great changes in our country often have come in steps. The civil rights movement changes occurred in steps. Let's focus now on how to reduce costs. That's been a central theme of the president. Let's talk about how to change the way healthcare is delivered. Let's talk about protecting people from not getting insurance because of pre-existing illness. Let's take off the caps on the amount of insurance coverage you can get over the years. Let's pay for preventive services for health from the first dollar. Here's the tough one. We morally, every one of us would like to cover every American with health insurance. But that's where you spend most of the $1 trillion plus, or a little less, that is estimated. The estimate said this healthcare plan will cost. And I'm afraid we've got to think about putting a lot of that off until the economy's out of recession. There's no reason we have to do it all now, but we do have to get started. And I think the place to start is cost, health delivery reform, and insurance market reforms.
Would there be a revolt in the Democratic Party, especially in the House? You served in the House before you came over to the Senate. You know the fever there, the fever pitch to get this done now. They believe they have the political opportunity. They believe, as Senator Lieberman said, there's a moral imperative. Could the president say, time out, we're going to start over, go incrementally steps in health care reform, and not have a revolt in his party?
Well, let me just give you 3 numbers. 6, 12, 23. 10 years ago, we were spending $6,000 for a family health insurance policy. Today, it's $12,000. By 2016, it'll be $23,000. Today, of that $12,000, $1,000, a little over $1,000, represents what a person who is insured pays for people who are not insured through their health insurance premiums. We need to deal with health insurance.
The whole thing. Big.
We've got to make sure we bring down the cost. Senator Lieberman's absolutely right. We have to have affordable, quality insurance available for everyone in our country. We've got to bring down the cost of health care. It's difficult to do that by ignoring those who don't have health insurance today.
If your choice is, though, to go for the whole loaf and possibly fail, not have the votes for it, or go for pieces and then come back down the road, would you say throw deep or take it in pieces?
What we need to achieve is bringing down the growth rate of healthcare costs and making sure that there's affordable, quality health insurance available for every American. That's our objective. Now, we can define how we get there. I think Senator Lieberman raises some critical points. We have to deal with preventive health care. We have to deal with health insurance reform to make sure that you can get private insurance that doesn't discriminate against you because of pre-existing conditions, or cancel your policies or put arbitrary limits on it. That's a very important part of health reform.
Is the political reality, and I want to bring the Republican voice into the conversation, but before I do, is the political reality, we showed one of your town halls on the program last week. It's getting a little feisty out there.
Yes.
Is the political reality, despite what you want, sir,
Yeah.
that the president's going to have to compromise significantly?
Well, you're going to have to compromise. That's part of the political process. As long as we achieve bringing down the cost of health care and everyone has access.
Is the public option going to be one of those compromises?
I think the public option is important. I think it's important because you need to have an affordable option available for people. In my state of Maryland today, if you have private insurance, 71% are in 2 insurance companies. 1 out of every 3 people in Maryland who have private insurance have no choice today. We've got to offer choice to bring down cost.
Senator Lugar, some Republicans are gleeful at this situation. The president is back on his heels. He's losing support on the economy and on health care. And some of them say just let it go. Let the Democrats have this fight amongst themselves, trying to figure out what to work. What would you do right now as an elder Republican statesman?
I would advise the president that the bringing up of the health care situation in the midst of the recession, the unemployment problems that Senator Lieberman described was a mistake. And that therefore he ought to postpone the decision, because even as you try to get to Senator Cardin's ideas of how you get reduced cost and what have you, get back into all the philosophical